You are pregnant. Congratulations. Are you curious how big your developing baby is? What your baby looks like as it grows inside you? And when you'll feel it more? Take a peek inside the womb to see how a baby develops from month to month. Fertilization happens when a sperm meets and penetrates an egg. It's also called conception. At this moment, the genetic makeup is complete, including the sex of the baby, within about 3 days after conception. The fertilized egg is dividing very fast into many cells. It passes through the fallopian tube into the uterus, where it attaches to the uterine wall. The placenta, which will nourish the baby, also start to form. Within 24 hours after fertilization, the egg that will become your baby rapidly divides into many cells. By the 9th week of pregnancy, the embryo develops into a fetus. There are about 40 weeks to a typical pregnancy. These weeks are divided into 3 trimesters. What are the 3 stages of fetal development called? Fetal development is an orderly and intricate process. It begins before you even know you are pregnant and ends with the birth of your baby. Between conception and delivery, there are many detailed steps that have to occur. There are 3 stages of fetal development: germinal, embryonic, and fetal. Most people don't talk about their pregnancy in these terms, but it can be helpful to know. What is the germinal stage? The germinal stage is the shortest stage of fetal development. It begins at conception when a sperm and egg join in your fallopian tube. The sperm fertilizes the egg and creates a zygote. The zygote begins its journey down to your uterus over the course of about 1 week. During this journey, the zygote divides many times, eventually creating 2 separate structures. One structure eventually becomes the embryo and the other becomes the placenta. Cell division continues at the rapid phase. Eventually, the zygote turns into a blastocyst. The blastocyst arrives at your uterus and implants into your uterine lining. If implantation is successful, your body immediately begins producing hormones to support a pregnancy. This also stops your menstrual period. The second stage of embryonic stage. The embryonic stage lasts from about the 3rd week of pregnancy until the end of the 8th week of pregnancy. The blastocysts begin to take on distinct human characteristics, if now called an embryo. Structures and organs like the neural tube, head, eyes, mouth, and limbs form. The cells that will form the fetal heart begins to cluster around 5 to 6 weeks and can pulse. Buds that will become arms and legs also form around the 6th week. By the end of the 8th week, most of the embryo's organs and systems take shape. For the lots of people, this is the point in pregnancy where morning sickness begins. The 3rd stage is fetal stage. The fetal stage of development begins around the 9th week and lasts until birth. This is when the embryo officially turns into a fetus. The fetus gets its assigned sex around 9th week of pregnancy. Although your healthcare provider can't detect it on your ultrasound yet, the fetus's major organs and body systems continue to grow and mature. Things like fingernails, eyelashes, and hair also grow. The fetus is able to move its limbs, although you may not feel it until 20 weeks of pregnancy. The majority of growth in both weight and length happens in the fetal stage. When does a pregnancy start? The start of pregnancy is actually the first day of your last menstrual period. This is the gestational age of the fetus. It's about 2 weeks ahead of when conception actually occurs. Though it may seem strange, the date of the first day of your last period will be an important date when determining your due date. Your healthcare provider will ask you about this date and will use it to figure out how far along you are in your pregnancy. How does conception work? Each month, your body goes through a reproductive cycle that can end in one of 2 ways. You will either have a menstruation period or become pregnant. This cycle is continuously happening during your reproductive years, from starting your period to menopause around age 50. In a cycle that ends with pregnancy, there are several steps. First, a group of eggs gets ready to leave your ovary for ovulation. The eggs develop in small fluid-filled cysts called follicles. Think of these follicles as small containers for each immature egg. Out of this group of eggs, one will become mature and continue through the cycle. The mature follicle now opens and releases the egg from your ovary. This is ovulation. After ovulation, the opened follicle develops into a structure called the corpus luteum. This releases the hormones progesterone and estrogen. Progesterone helps prepare your uterine lining for pregnancy. If you don't become pregnant during a cycle, this lining is what your body sheds during your period. If sperm fertilizes the egg, conception occurs and the fertilized egg begins its journey to your uterus where it will implant. How long is a pregnancy? Traditionally, we think of pregnancy as a 9-month process. However, this isn't always the case. A full-term pregnancy is 40 weeks or 280 days. Depending on what month you are pregnant during and what week you deliver, you could be pregnant for either 9 months or 10 months. This is completely normal and healthy. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more.